Attorney General Jeff Sessions has unfortunately rescinded an Obama-era letter, a memo that reconfirmed what the current laws are in regard to debtors' prisons. Now, we are not supposed to have debtors' prisons here in the United States, but there are certain municipalities throughout the nation that have decided that regressive taxation aimed specifically at the poor is the way to go to collect some revenue. And so during Obama's administration, there was a letter put out that reminded the officials involved in all of this that you are supposed to consider the financial burden and the poverty level of the person that you are imposing certain citations and fines on. And if they're not able to pay them, instead of creating a situation where they're in this perpetual debt, which leads to jail time, think about other ways to carry out a punishment that's less of a financial burden. Attorney General Jeff Sessions didn't like that, and so he rescinded that memo. So essentially, he rescinded a memo regarding what the current laws are. So what is he trying to do? Encourage people to break the law? Let's give you the details. The letter, which was sent in March of 2016 to the chief judges and court administrators in all 50 states, noted that illegal imposition of fines and fees had been receiving significant attention and that the Justice Department had a strong interest in making sure the rights of citizens were protected. Now, this happened because of an investigation into what police were doing in Ferguson, Missouri, what the courts were doing in Ferguson, Missouri. The Justice Department during the Obama administration had alleged in a lawsuit that officers in Ferguson, Missouri were violating citizens' civil rights in part because of their policing tactics and how they were meant to generate revenue. So they were specifically attempting to generate revenue by imposing fines and citations on the working poor in the area. Great. So the letter urged court officials to review their rules and procedures. It detailed 7 principles to consider when imposing fines and fees. Among them, that courts should not jail people for non-payment of fines and fees without first determining whether the non-payer was indigent and then establishing that the failure to pay was willful, and that courts should consider alternatives to jail for indigent defendants. Okay, so that's the rundown of what the Obama memo indicated. But Jeff Sessions, again, didn't like it, so he did rescind it. And we'll see how this is gonna play out. But it's interesting because Jeff Sessions, the Justice Department, and more importantly, Donald Trump during the election, really emphasized that he was the law and order candidate. And what we see time and time again is not an emphasis on law and order, but breaking the law and complete disorder.
Right.
Yeah, disorder. So it's just, you're gonna throw poor people in jail because they can't afford their fines?
So there's federalism. Like weed is legal in California, but it's illegal at a federal level. That is a contradiction between the kinds of law that are happening in one location. Because we're in America, we're also in California, so weed's both illegal and legal. And frequently it is the job of the Attorney General as the mouthpiece of the Justice Department on behalf of the president in large part to say like, here's the law we care about. And that's what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And in the same way that the memo that he is overruling said, this is the law we care about, here are our priorities here. He's, by rescinding it, saying here are our priorities. And his priority seems to be like, try to milk the poor, and by the same token, the rich can afford to be worse, right, than the poor. So the poor can do something, keep the fine the same for both, and it's a lower percentage of someone who's rich's wealth, and it cripples the same offense relative to the amount of money that person has, cripples the hell out of one person who doesn't have as much money.
Well, I mean, the thing is, this has, like you were mentioning, Anna, this has no positive impact on public safety whatsoever.
At all.
At all. And it's only a profit-motivated decision made on the Justice Department's part, and even more so, I'll go a little more theoretical on this for a second.
So hold that thought for a second, because I have to respond to what you just said. It's really important. So I actually disagree that there's a profit motive here. I think maybe it might have started off as a profit motive, but it actually ends up draining resources from any given municipality. Because think about it, if you're gonna you're gonna fine poor people who can't afford those fines, can't pay those fines, and then you're gonna punish them by throwing them in the jail system as a result. Who do you think pays for the jail systems?
Right.
The taxpayers, right? So it's draining resources.
Right. No, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's draining our resources,
That's right.
It's
That's
not
right.
draining the federal resources or the state
Or the
level.
private
So they have to
prisons.
find some way to make up the money that they lost. The municipality is trying to find some way to make up the money that they lost. Federal government is trying to find some way to make up the money that they lost. So the thing is, on a theoretical level, the wealthy, the global elite are on strike. And because they are on strike, they've refused to pay taxes that the rest of us are all paying and the equitable rate that all of us are all paying.
Yeah.
And so their refusal to throw money into the pot that we're all collectively throwing money into means that the government has to find some other way to generate that income. And who are they going to go after? People who cannot protect themselves on a legal level. Poor folks, working class folks,
You're
people
right.
of color folks. So that's what they're targeting.
Right, and so I like that you talked about that, in regard to not having the resources to defend themselves, because if the Obama era memo just let these judges know, hey, you got to follow the law. And what Jeff Sessions is doing is essentially letting them know you can break the law. Well, then if people are breaking the law, then you have some legal recourse there, right? You have the ability to fight back. But think about how incredibly expensive it is to fight back. People who are powerless, unfortunately, fall in the lower end of this two-tier justice system. And that's the most enraging part about all of this. It's picking on the powerless because you know you can, because you know they can't fight back. And it's disgusting.
And it provides the perfect, for them, justification for expanding their prison system.
Right.
And so that's why we, thankfully there were amazing scholars who made the connection that these mandatory minimums, these kind of regressive taxes on the poor, they all go towards trying to either build or expand the prison system, which, corporations profit out of, or they go towards trying to make up this debt.
And it's crazy where it manifests itself. If you watch the Camp David press conference the president gave, he essentially just said that, they're having a lot of success in the places where they go after the drugs harshly. You're just like that, and that little moment is enough for Jeff Sessions and other people who support the mandatory minimums to just strike and keep that stuff happening. And it's not fair.
If you want to get the whole Young Turks show every single day, become a member, tytnetwork.com/join. And once you do, you'll be saying,
I'm like a smart person.
or you might say,
I think it's weird.
or you might say,
Oops.
no, that won't be that one. It won't be that one. It'll be great, trust me. tytnetwork.com/join.